Hey guys, in this week's Casual Cinecast, we are going to make it epic by reviewing Furiosa. But before that, we're going to talk about Civil War, Challengers, and the premiere of The Acolyte. So join us!
Hello and welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx, the show where we talk about the TV and movies we've been watching, as well as do a deep dive review of a current movie or a classic film from the Criterion Collection as voted on by the listener via X/Twitter. This week we're bringing you a full review of Furiosa. I'm joined by co-host Mike. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. I just feel like at the top of the show here is the best time to go ahead and acknowledge the full title is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Oh, okay.
But doesn't really roll off the tongue, and you didn't put it in the show notes, so I didn't say it in the intro, but I wanted to go ahead and just get it out of the way now.
Yeah. I don't think I even realized it was subtitled despite having had the IMDb page open for minutes now.
Yeah, minutes now. Ready to absorb all the information except for the title.
Yeah. Well, we should acknowledge that we skipped a week on recording and releasing an episode. Reason being is because storms decimated Texas for a while.
Yeah, and at different times.
Yeah.
So you were without power for many days over there around Houston.
Yeah.
And then where I'm at in Dallas, basically as soon as his power came back on, like a couple days later, when we were getting ready to record, my internet went completely out for days.
Yeah.
And then there was also just crazy storms, and it's been rainy every day. So I think today's like the first day where everything's back on track and our schedules are clear.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, the timing kind of worked out because now the Acolyte is out, so we can kind of talk about that a little bit. Whereas, I guess we would have done that anyways, but...
Yeah. But anyways, if anyone's listening to this day of release and you're wondering why in the world a Furiosa review is coming out way too late, that's why.
Yeah. But can a review ever be late?
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah. I do know what you mean. I was just, trying to start thoughtful discussion, but we'll drop it because you're right.
The party starts right when you arrive on the internet.
That's right.
I think you arrive to a review, that's when it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I get
a
what
review
you're going
could
for.
Only be early.
I get what you're going for, just like you got what I was going for, but all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of going, do you want to go ahead and go on to News on the March?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
News on the March!
All right, so Alex Garland's Civil War. This was a movie that I saw opening night, or I guess Friday night. I guess movies open on Thursdays now. But anyway, I saw it the Friday it came out. I haven't seen it in a while, but you just saw it recently. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off? What did you think of Alex Garland's Civil War? And also, what's your relationship with Alex Garland in general?
Sure. So starting with the relationship with Alex Garland is that I'm pretty hit or miss on him. Some of his movies I've really,
I do know that.
Some of the stuff I've really not liked, and some I really have. I think,
and
overall,
not necessarily like the popular ones. Like sometimes like the more unpopular Alex Garland, you'll put on there in like your top movies of the year.
Yeah.
And then like the Alex Garland that everyone else seems to like, you're like, I don't know, it's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, which could be put down to expectation potentially.
Sure,
I think that's
it's not.
quite
It's
possible.
not a knock. It's just
Yeah.
All to say, I cannot wait to hear you talk about whatever you're going to say about what Civil War.
Yeah, you never know, right? Yeah, it could really go one of two ways. So I will say that I think generally I've been a bigger fan of the stuff he's written more than the stuff that he's directed.
But doesn't he write all the stuff he directs, though?
Well, yeah, exclusively written, I guess I should say.
Right. Like you like Danny Boyle or whatever to direct an Alex Garland movie.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
But hit or miss. So I wasn't. I mean, again, this might be expectation, but like I was a little underwhelmed with things like Ex Machina and Annihilation. I didn't care for that much, but I also thought like the Devs series that he did by the end of the show was also underwhelming. But I did really like Men. I thought that was really interesting, and I guess I kind of expected something similar from Civil War to be a little bit more. I guess I want to say on the nose, at least in the sense that like Men was about men being horrifying to a woman, and there's like not really any mystery between like title and concept there.
Yeah, but the concept goes in some pretty wild places in Men.
It does.
Like, I think when you give someone that description, I don't think they would come up with whatever the heck happens at the end of Men.
No, probably not. But I guess I just say that to say that like I kind of expected this to be focused more on the modern day Civil War happening in America that was in the trailer, and I was surprised by how much it focuses on the journalists, and that Civil War feels like a backdrop more than anything else.
Yeah.
And to some extent, you could tell this story, and emotionally speaking, and character study wise, in any country that has any sort of war going on. And that surprised me. I thought Alex Garland would be a little bit more pointed with that. And it's neither good or bad necessarily. I think for a lot of people that was bad. I think a lot of people, when this movie came out, there was a lot of discussion because I think some people wanted a more clear-cut, like pointing fingers, or not necessarily pointing fingers, but like they wanted more of how this all began, how we got there. Yeah.
And what sides were which and what they stood for.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's more of an American point of view with our country being the main subject. But like
maybe, yeah.
That's I mean, because
sets an
I kind of
expectation, I guess, for Americans for sure.
Yeah, like I wanted that too, and when I realized I wasn't going to get it, I was I came to terms with it and enjoyed the movie the rest of the way. Which is to say, I did like it. I didn't love it, but I found it really interesting and pretty intense the whole time. Like I was just kind of shocked at like the positions that these photographers kept putting themselves into. And I was like, this is such a bad idea. Like not worth it, whatever it is. But I found the characters all really interesting between, what motivated them and how sometimes they have this like excitement. And I believe one character almost says like he's, getting aroused at the gunfire sounds that are nearby where they're camping out, and but then like bad things happen to them and like people they're with, and they're devastated, but they kind of keep going. There's this theme early on in the movie of like
keep going no matter what.
Yeah. Like, when you're staring at something horrific, like it's your job to take the picture, right? To capture the image, tell the story, regardless of your feelings. And
right.
So to me, that's very interesting.
Right. It is. And also I think what the movie's interested in as well is once you adopt that way of life, what does that do to your soul? For lack of a better word, or your humanity, you know what I mean? Or like, how does that affect you as like a person living day to day whenever your job has to adopt the philosophy of no matter what horrific things you see, no matter what tragedy befalls anyone around you, including your coworkers or anyone that you might know or love, you have to keep going in the face of this. It's all about that end goal, that perfect shot or that perfect quote or whatever, and then we should be thankful for these people that they exist, but also thankful that I don't have to exist in such a capacity, right? Because it sounds like losing your humanity a bit. in a way.
It does, yeah. And I at a certain point expected more of a finger pointed towards media, and I'm not even sure the movie goes there. I didn't really take away any sort of like negative view on these people, like they're exploiting the situation for profit or something like that. Like I might have expected that if the story was focused around like a media conglomerate or something, but these are very much like individual freelance artists that probably only make money if any of their pictures sell, right?
Right.
So what did you think overall?
I think I'm pretty close to you from what it sounds like. I enjoyed it. I think I went in expecting what I mentioned earlier, what you were expecting, what lots of people were expecting, which is like, okay, I thought this was going to be a movie about a modern day American Civil War. But like you said, very quickly, it's you catch on to the fact that this movie is not interested in giving you that. It gives you a little bit, like, I think the Nick Offerman character, he's not particularly like any president in particular, but some of his verbiage and the things he says kind of remind you a little bit of Trump if you want to look at it that way.
Sure.
Like I think he opens the movie talking about one of the biggest, best victories in human history has just been achieved by his party or something like that. Some ridiculous statement,
Yeah.
So there's stuff, if you want to read between the lines and get that, there's stuff you can kind of weed out, but it's very obvious that Alex Garland is not interested in making that movie. He's interested in showing you how terrible a civil war would be, no matter where you live.
Yeah.
And he's here to, I think this is like a love letter to journalism and the press, to be honest with you, in a little bit of a way. In fact, I think the most unrealistic thing about this movie is how much respect both sides show to the press.
Right.
Because I feel like in the way things are going, that does not happen that way.
Yeah. There's sort of the line from the trailer where is it Jesse Plemons says, like, what kind of American are you? I'm surprised they didn't get more of that as press. Like, what press organization are you with?
What kind of press are you? Yeah.
I can only assume in that world it would matter much like it does in ours. Or like if we went into a civil war.
Right.
I guarantee there would be sides in terms of press. But yeah, I mean, I think this, in some ways I'm used to more interesting philosophical, sort of like sci-fi ideas from Alex Garland. So in some ways this did leave me with less to think about afterwards.
Yeah.
And more so just enjoying the journey with these characters and their sort of emotional growth and development and what and it kind of ended there for me for the most part. I don't know if you felt any different.
Yeah, it's good. I haven't thought about it a lot since I've seen it. So it's I think it's on the weaker end of Alex Garland's movies, but there is a lot here to appreciate. It's a good character study. It's scary and tense in a lot of places. Jesse Plemons is great. Kirsten Dunst is great.
Yeah.
Wagner, guy from Narcos, whose name escapes me. Wagner, I can't remember. But anyway, he's really good.
He's really good. He was my favorite. In the movie,
Kaylee Spaney from Priscilla and soon to be an alien Romulus. She's great.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think everything technically is like really great about it. I even like the music, and sometimes I wasn't sure if it was score or if it was like a needle drop of a song I've never heard. But there was a vibe that reminded me of the tone. I think the clash of tone and imagery that you get in Vietnam movies, where there's like, these sort of like, the classic one is like the Creedence Clearwater song, right? But like that sort of classic rock alongside Vietnam War imagery, they kind of clash, right? In an interesting way. And I think there was an attempt to do something similar with the music and score and soundtrack here that I found interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I actually haven't even thought about the soundtrack that much, but as you're talking about it, I'm remembering back to, oh yeah, that music was in there.
Yeah,
There
and
was a
music.
little bit of like using music kind of ironic, not necessarily ironically, but
It was just a more upbeat against
yeah,
against like some pretty
yeah,
horrific
yeah,
stuff going on.
right. He likes to put like a weird juxtaposition with music in this movie against some pretty violent images and
Yeah.
terrible things.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't get into too many details because this is just news on the march, but I will say that there is a point early on where like the main characters come up to a gas station and there's like people just outside it with guns, and you're like, is this their gas station, or are these just like randos who have taken over a gas station? And I think the movie really effectively shows you just like how confusing and chaotic a civil war would be. It wouldn't even be an orchestrated sides versus sides situation. It would be everywhere has guns, and they're all like in varying levels of caring about what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very much like you wouldn't know who's who until it's too
Getting
late.
shot
Probably.
at.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you there. Definitely some terrifying ideas
Yeah.
presented, which is on par with Alex Garland, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But okay. That's Civil War. So moving on to Challengers. I think you watched this a little while ago. I just recently watched it. But since I started Civil War, I'm going to give you Challengers.
Okay. Yeah, so Challengers, obviously starring Zendaya, Mike Faced, and then I forgot the other guy's name. Forgive me.
I'll look it up while you talk.
Okay. Directed by Luca Guadagnino, who I think is most famous for Call Me By Your Name.
The Suspiria remake, right?
Yeah, Suspiria remake, which I still never got to see.
Me neither. Josh O'Connor.
Josh O'Connor, thank you. Seamless. Anyways, this movie's good. I liked it. It's not great, but it is an interesting, I don't even want to call it an adult drama, but it feels like an adult drama, but it also kind of feels like it's for younger kids given the cast, you know, like Zendaya and all those other up-and-comers. But I don't know. I liked it. It's good. It's not as, I think, blunt as the trailer, I think, made it seem like it would be, if that makes sense. I think it's a little bit more clever than what I think. I don't think the trailer made it look particularly good to me. It just kind of looked okay.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't particularly intrigued or sold on the trailer until the good word of mouth came in. Then that's what turned me around on it.
Yeah, once the word of mouth came back, I was like, what?
That movie?
And I believed it because, Luca Guadagnino constantly makes movies that are well received. He's a director that I do not love, but I think this is probably my favorite thing I've seen from him. Anyways, it's good. It's not great, but strong performances all around. Zendaya is really awesome, continues to be awesome. To me, the MVP, though, is Mike Faced from West Side Story.
Yes.
The Steven Spielberg one. Yes. I think he is just a guy that you want to watch. He's just likable, natural on camera.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So I just looked up who was who because I actually wasn't familiar. I felt Josh O'Connor was the standout.
Oh yeah,
so it's
there you go.
Interesting.
We have each chosen our favorite challenger. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say.
I don't know either, but you made it.
Yeah, eventually. But yeah, all in all, it's a good movie. Just like a good drama. Not really a comedy, but not even really a sports movie, but more like a. I don't know, like a love triangle sports movie,
Love triangle, sexual tension, Like I think there's a sexiness
a little bit of Bull
to the
Durham
movie.
energy to this, I guess.
Yeah, I probably like this movie better than Bull Durham, but
me too. I think this movie's better than Bull Durham.
I understand Bull Durham's a classic. Well, this one, the whole cutting back and forth and kind of having this sort of framing device be this one match and then you flash backwards
Yeah.
to during the match and you keep cutting back to it. Like that keeps things really moving, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're constantly placing where you are, what has changed since the last time jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's told in a very interesting way. Really, I think it just boils down to like the performances and the direction are good, but it's a strong script.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's really intriguing. It is, there is like a love triangle going on, but I think I expected a lot more, like based on the trailer, a lot more of the actual like them falling in love and like maybe fighting over in that like initial like when they're meeting each other and getting to know each other and starting to date. So this movie went. It had a much wider scope than I expected to, and I think it's significantly more interesting for it.
Yeah, I was thankful that the movie was not what I thought it was going to be based on the trailer. Mm-hmm. I will say there are some things I didn't necessarily like. For example, I think during some of the tennis matches, there's some really there's some shots that like try to emulate from the point of view of a ball, and I found those to be stupid.
Yeah, there's like a first person point of view as well from like the players themselves, where you can kind of like see the racket, and it's very like. And
then like there's a lot of CGI tennis balls in this that don't look particularly good.
Yeah, those kind of stuck out, but I kind of understand why they need to do it. I just wish they could have done it better.
Yeah, or just like don't give us close-ups. Like keep the CGI tennis balls at a distance. Like quit trying to put them like flying towards the camera or something.
Yeah. Like I think there's a need to do it because like when you are that good at tennis, you can consistently hit the ball in the same spots and direction.
Yeah.
And I doubt that, as I'm sure they had training, but I doubt that Zendaya and Mike Faced and Josh O'Connor can do that with the consistency needed.
Not, yeah.
So like kind of even in the wide shots, the CG ball didn't look that good to me.
Yeah.
Still kind of
what are you going to do?
Stuck out, but yeah. And I did like the shots that are like underneath the floor. Is like towards the very, very end. There's some shots where like they've got them playing the section of the match out on like a glass floor where underneath shooting up.
Right.
So you like see the bottoms of their shoes and stuff. I thought those shots were pretty cool in terms of getting creative with tennis, but I'm with you that the shot where like the camera's supposed to be like flying like it's the ball. It was like
back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah. It just kind of didn't fit. Like it just felt,
and it comes to such a pivotal point that you're like kind of taken out of, at least I was like,
Yeah. It's like, is this a Sam Raimi picture now? I don't understand.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Except if it were Sam Raimi, it would be scattered throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And you would have acclimated at that point to the weirdness.
Yeah. Or it would, I don't know, it would have been done at least in a way that's more immediately purposeful.
Right.
And I'm not sure I found the purpose in this other than like, can we keep showing people play tennis in the same shots over and over for an entire movie, or do we need to have some variety and also like what could we do different just for the sake of that?
Right.
But okay. Anything else on Challengers?
No, I don't think so. I think we can move on. Solid recommend from me.
Yeah. I recommend it. I'm think you said you didn't necessarily love it, but or like think it was great, but
it was
certainly good. Yeah.
Certainly solid, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you. Okay.
Comfortably good.
I like it.
All right. Cool. So the last thing, I will throw it to you because you had a more interesting experience watching this the first time than I did. So why don't you go on?
Sure. Well, I don't exactly know how you watched it. I don't know what could have
on my
happened.
couch last night.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I figured, but you never know what could happen.
Yeah. I could have been outside. Could have been in my car.
You could have. You could have been watching it while you were jogging, like holding a tablet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but I just settled for the couch.
Smart. So I saw this. Disney did like a special screening in select theaters, and they did one near me. And I think you did a similar thing for Ahsoka episode 4, or was it episode 5?
5.
Episode 5 of Ahsoka, where they played an episode of the show in the theaters. And this one, they played the 2-episode premiere the night before it was released on Disney. So I got to see it a whopping like 22 hours before the rest of the world, which also made it cool. And they also gave me a free small soda and a small popcorn, which, not me specifically, everybody that was there.
Sweet.
Which is cool. I guess they probably want that for like the photo op. Everyone's got popcorn and drink.
Yeah.
You know,
it looks like everyone's having fun and eating, having a good time.
Yeah. Which I think was mostly true. I saw a Balin Skull cosplayer who went there, who went to see it, and that was pretty cool. Even looked like him.
Was it a crowded theater?
It was, but it was like they had kind of big reclining comfortable seats, so it wasn't even like a ton of people. It was just, full.
Yeah.
But not necessarily like we weren't like packed in like sardines or anything like that. But it was very cool. It was a very cool experience. I've never done anything like that before. So that was a lot of fun. It was cool to see it on the big screen. Although there, like from a technical standpoint, there was one particular moment where the way they put the episodes together when the second one started, I wasn't sure if we were seeing a post-credits in tag or the start of the next episode, because it went straight from the end of the credits of the first episode to the first scene of the second episode without like the opening bumpers. So I was like, oh, in tag. Okay, here we go. But then turns out it was the second episode. So I was briefly confused. But anyways, so, and I rewatched the episodes at home last night, just to revisit them and see what it's like at home, see how it looked. Cause I thought when I saw it in the theaters, it was a little grainy looking. And I was like, is this the projector, or is this
No, I think they added grain.
They did. It wasn't quite as grainy at home as it was in the theater, but there was a good amount of grain to it. It has some texture to it.
It gives it a little bit more of an atmosphere. Yeah.
I liked it too. I just kind of wanted to compare. But anyways, so yeah, 2-episode premiere. I'm a little bit familiar with some of the like High Republic Star Wars era. And for those who don't know, this is set, I think it's 132 years before like the original Star Wars film.
I think just 100 before the Empire is what the title card says. So
100 before the Empire? Okay.
Yeah, 100 before the Empire. So that would make it, 87 years before Phantom Menace? I don't know.
Oh, not Phantom Menace. A New Hope is what I was saying. I had read it was like 132 or 123.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Maybe that checks
like out. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, say roughly 100 years, before the start of the Empire. So I've read a little bit of High Republic, but more or less, this is like an entirely new Star Wars era for all of us. So to me, this has a lot of elements going on that are really, really intriguing. Like, what are the Jedi like at this time? What's the world like? There's no Sith around. There's no light dark. There's no characters we know.
From Yoda's popping around somewhere.
Yeah. Yoda's somewhere, but I doubt he's going to be in the show very much, if at all. And so yeah, to me, it felt, it felt like Star Wars, but it felt very different. And then at the same time, there's the story of the show is that there's like a dark, evil sort of a person going around killing Jedi, and they're trying to figure out why. And so there's a murder mystery sort of, or in general, just a mystery aspect of Star Wars that I don't know that I've felt other than maybe Attack of the Clones has a bit of that mystery to it, of like who's trying to assassinate Padme.
Yeah.
Right.
Detective Obi-Wan for a few minutes there in the middle of Attack of the Clones. Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, this feels very different and unlike any other Star Wars thing that I can think of. I don't know how you felt about that. We'll get into discussion. I'll pass to you. But overall, I thought it was really cool. I'm really intrigued by a ton of things, like probably more things than we have time to go into in news on the march. But I can't wait for more, basically. I really liked it. So what are your thoughts on Acolyte?
Yeah, so I think I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I think with all the Star Wars TV shows, even animation, very rarely do they leave off on cliffhangers or rely on intrigue and mystery. That is not something that Star Wars usually does. It's usually pretty straightforward, kind of hard on its sleeve, swashbuckling adventure. Unless you're Andor, and then it's like espionage and monologues. But usually it's adventure, fun, family-oriented adventure.
Right.
So this is kind of something new. There's like selected arcs in the Clone Wars and some animated stuff that's like there'll be a mystery to unfold, like who set off a bomb in the Jedi Temple or whatever. But like this, I think, is a mystery show. At least so far. I don't know what it will evolve into, but the entire hook is that there's like sort of this murder mystery happening. And then what you think is going to be the arc of the show, the season, it isn't that. It starts addressing that really quickly and then you're like, okay, where are we going to go from here? And each episode, I think, ends with like a really cool, can't wait to see what happens next kind of moment. I think the cast is really strong. I think this is one of the better looking Star Wars shows, in my opinion. I think it's a good blend between looking like Andor and looking kind of like Book of Boba or Mando. With like, I think they use the volume or green screen sometimes, but I think I'm focusing on it less because I know there are a lot of real sets and real locations that I'm comfortable with that. You know what I mean? Like it feels lived in a way that like a lot of content doesn't, and we may talk about that in a movie later in a review. So anyways, all to say is like, I think the money's on the screen here. It looks really good. I'm intrigued by the characters. I think it's cool to see, the Jedi, well before we see them in the prequels, and we can kind of see how they're well on their way to their downfall. It's pretty apparent pretty quickly in this show that they're already kind of in the wrong spot politically, and being too wrapped up in politics. So you can kind of see the writing on the wall, even at this point, And I don't know. I like how a lot of the characters seem gray. It's not just binary like it is in a lot of Star Wars, right? It's not just like light side, dark side. It's like, Andor and some Star Wars always focuses on the gray characters a little bit, but this one feels like it wants to show you some flaws with the Jedi Order in an interesting way, and I think that's intriguing and cool.
Yeah,
and
I think it's
kind of brave. And also, I'll let you talk, but just 1 second. It's kind of annoying having to deal with the reception to this show from people who probably aren't even watching it. It feels like people have it out for this show before it even aired, and that's kind of a bummer because I think it's quality, and I don't think it's what a lot of people are assuming it is based on the vitriol I see spewed on like Twitter and stuff, or X,
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a lot of people that already didn't like it before the first trailer came out, and already we're never going to like it. And we'll find almost any reason to criticize. At least from some of the stuff I've seen, it seems like if there's a possible nit to pick, they will.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The show could end up not being very good, but I think it's a strong start. Like, I'm not loving it yet. It's not the best thing ever, but it is a solid start and an intriguing hook, Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're having to adjust to all new characters, which is something and we do get some of that sometime in Star Wars, but usually they're centered around more that we know, being part of the rebellion. So like, okay, well, these are all new rebel characters we have to meet and know, and learn to love or not love, but they're part of the rebellion. So at least I have like that grounding. And I think the Jedi in particular in this are is painted as somewhat untrustworthy. Not necessarily that they're bad, but like as a viewer, I'm not sure. Like there's kind of contradictions in the things that they're saying throughout the first couple episodes, and like I'm like, wait, that doesn't quite. I don't know if that adds up, or if that's quite right. Like I don't know if I believe you, and that's not. That's not always. Or I don't remember any other time where we've really like felt that with the Jedi in terms of like movies and TV. I felt that in some books. Like there's a couple of the books I've read. Actually, I think the last 3 Star Wars books that I've read all dealt with someone questioning the Jedi Order and feeling like not great about them and kind of pointing out their flaws, which kind of served as a nice primer for this.
Yeah. Get in that headspace.
Yeah. So that's been cool, but I really like that. I think the opening scene is really cool. Like the combat. I was like, it was a bit more martial arts-y than I remember. Yeah. Like, because there's like a section where they're trying to fight without their lightsabers. Right. And
we've seen a little bit of that in Star Wars lately.
Yeah.
Vader did it. And then Ezra did it.
Right. Fighting without the lightsaber.
I think this is the best one of those.
Yeah. And it could be because the opening scene has Carrie-Anne Moss in it. So it reminded me of The Matrix.
She is cool.
Fighting. And I think it's kind of hard to get away from that personally.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would have seen the Matrix movies and watched this and not get Matrix vibes from that fight scene.
I think they weren't even trying to hide it really there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. And so yeah, but I just thought the opening scene was really cool. And I don't necessarily want to spoil, but I was surprised by it too.
Yeah.
I did not expect some things to happen.
Yeah. In the first 2 episodes, there are a couple times where I'm like, oh, really? This is happening already? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to go into too much detail because, like, I don't know how much all this is even going to be relevant. It's so twisty and turny, that, like, stuff that seems like I kind of think I know where it's going, I don't want to get too focused. I don't really even want to, like, try to unpack it or, like, mystery solve it before it even happens, Yeah. But I do feel like there are more twists to come. It feels like that kind of show.
Yeah.
And based on Russian Doll from Leslie Headland, I think it's gonna be solid. I think she has a good sensibility for what makes a well-paced, engaging show.
Yeah. I think signs are good, but like you said, probably at this point getting into too much speculation is probably too much for news on the march. But we've kind of previewed it, and once it's over, we'll probably wrap up and dive into a lot more of the themes.
Yeah, here in a couple months, probably like in August. So
yeah, big fan of the new droid. We always kind of get a new droid.
Yeah, some new ships.
Yeah,
new robes.
The little multi-purpose droid tool Pip is great. I think.
Yeah, new droid, and then a good old-fashioned gonk droid right at the beginning.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Love a gonk.
Yeah, good old gonk droid. It's always fun when they show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, and also there was a character from the High Republic books. She's older now, but she's there.
Yeah, Inestra, is that her name? No. Yeah, Inestra.
For Inestra Rowe.
Yeah,
she seems like she's like a new Mace Windu type in this era. She's like, we got to talk about that before you go do it. Don't go do it. We all have to talk.
Yeah. Diplomacy first.
Yeah.
Action later.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I'm excited.
It remains good. I think there's a couple characters where I'm like, if they do this with the character, it'll be really cool. But if they do that, I don't know if I'm going to like it as much. But I'm trying not to feel that way because I think there's a good chance they might go with the option I don't want, and I don't want to like be disappointed.
Yeah, but if they're thinking of how to surprise us, which I feel like they've already surprised us, as we've said, then if you feel like it's more likely it's the thing that you don't want, then they will have thought of that and they'll do something different.
Maybe so.
Yeah, they're trying to be a little
It
tricksters.
involves the character played by Manny Jacinto.
Okay. I don't know who that is off the top of my head.
That's all right. You can look it up later, and you'll know exactly what I mean. But anyways, all right. Did we do it? Did we talk about the Acolyte?
Yeah, we'll catch up when it's all wrapped up.
All right, rock on. So I guess now we should start our review.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, starting now.
Whatever you have to do. However long it takes. Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
I'm Furiosa!
The darkest of angels. The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
All right, so as always with our newer films, we'll be doing a spoiler-free section up front. We'll give our general thoughts on the movie without diving into spoilers. And before we get into spoilers, we'll give you a warning. We'll play a little bumper, give you a full spoiler alert so that you have plenty of time to pause the podcast, go watch Furiosa, and come back and finish listening.
All right, that's right. So, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, was directed by George Miller. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, and Tom Burke. The IMDb synopsis says, the origin story of renegade warrior Furiosa before her encounter and team-up with Mad Max.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. Simple. All we need.
Yeah. Simple and pulpy.
Yes.
I like it.
I like describing her as a renegade warrior.
Yeah.
Not what I would have done, but that's why I'm not a writer of films or IMDb synopses.
Yeah, synopsi. Yeah, I agree. That's why you're not. All right, so who wants to kick us off? You saw this most recently, right?
I think by a matter of days.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's true. It's been a while for both of us, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I'll kick us off.
Okay.
So I'll start with Mad Max. So I have not seen Beyond Thunderdome. Just gonna put that out there right now.
Okay.
I have seen the original Mad Max, and I've seen Road Warrior, which I liked when I watched when I was a good bit younger than I am now. Never really. I think I've seen each of them once. You know, so they never really grabbed me as things that I've gravitated back to. So when Fury Road came out, I was not that interested. And then like the word of mouth came back out about it because, you know, it was just super popular and it seemed like everybody I seemed to love it. People I've never heard talk about Mad Max. People I've never really even heard talk about movies. We're like, wow, this Fury Road movie. What a film, right?
That seems to be the common consensus, yes.
So I missed it when it came out. I think it was around the time that I was like making my film for grad school, and there was a good year and a half around that time period that I just kind of checked out on almost all movies and barely made it to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed it in theaters, and I watched it at some point, and I was a little underwhelmed, I think, just because of the word of mouth. But not that different from the way that I felt about the other Mad Max movies. Like I liked them, I enjoyed them, it was interesting, but I wasn't overwhelmed by how awesome it was, and like I've never had this desire to go back and rewatch it until Furiosa was coming out. So I went back and rewatched Fury Road a few days before, and I think I enjoyed it more this time, just like now having like the proper expectations, having seen it once. But I think these movies just feel at a bit of a distance to me. There's something about them all that like I'm not connecting with, unfortunately. So while I like them and I respect them and appreciate the boldness that they're made with, I've just never loved them. They've just never really felt like movies for me. And I don't feel that dissimilar about Furiosa. To me, it's made with an equal amount of love and an equal amount of boldness that Fury Road was. And I personally have kind of a hard time picking out much differences between the two, at least in terms of quality. Like, I feel like...
What do you mean? Like as far as like movie quality or like filming quality? What are you saying?
Like, well, just overall, like spectacle, style,
Gotcha.
performances, action, like level of action, level of intensity.
Yeah.
It all feels pretty much similar. I say this is a bit of a slower moving movie than Fury Road.
Yeah, it's not as propulsive.
Yeah, because Fury Road is basically like one giant chase sequence with a few stops here and there. But this one, we start with a little girl. We get a lot of scenes. We fade to black and then come back
an
with
odyssey.
like new
It's an
chapter
epic.
titles.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's much more like spanning a life, or at least a good chunk of a life,
Yeah.
than a single moment. But anyway, so I have trouble like differentiating the quality. So like to me, I feel like if you like Fury Road, you're gonna like Furiosa too. I don't find that much different to where like I would fully understand if someone just like did not like Furiosa but was a huge Fury Road fan. Like that, just those two ideas wouldn't make sense to me.
There's a loud contingent of Mad Max fans who are upset that Mad Max is not the main character in this movie.
Sure.
And the usual complaining about wokeness, but I don't know. I don't know if they were ever going to like the movie, based on that.
Yeah, I kind of don't count those people.
Yeah,
as like
it's just they're
there's
always
already
there.
yeah. There's already a cognitive dissonance with those people that I don't understand.
Yeah.
So I can't add more. There's not much point in adding more to them for that. But anyway, so I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was really cool. There's some really cool moments in it. We'll get into some of the more details and stuff later, but I'll leave it there. Like, it's not a movie for me. There's like just things about these movies that we may or may not get into that just kind of like I don't find that like interesting or intriguing or cool or whatever they're supposed to be. But it's an enjoyable movie. Even if it's not one that's like going to speak to me in any way that like makes me over the top about it. So I'll leave it there. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah. So let's see. First of all, I think my thoughts are that you are lame.
I know that. That's got to be on record somewhere in all these episodes.
Yeah. No, I think, let's see, I've been, I wouldn't say I'm like a super fan, but I've been a fan of Mad Max for a long time. Mm-hmm. The Road Warrior was like always an action highlight of the 80s. And I thought Fury Road was awesome when it came out. I was surprised, since you bring it up, at the universal acclaim for that movie.
Me
because when I grew up liking The Road Warrior, no one, old people who showed it to me knew what it was, but no one no one watched The Road Warrior whenever I was a kid. So I was expecting Mad Max Fury Road to, I was just hoping it was like a half as good as The Road Warrior. And then I think word of mouth came out, and then it hit Rotten Tomatoes with a 99% debut or something, or 100% for a while. and I think the lowest it ever got was like 97. So it was just kind of crazy the reception that movie got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but you know me, it's like you're a comedy guy. I have always been attracted to like really well shot, well choreographed, well edited, paced action. I just appreciate it. I think it's like filmmaking at its most pure, right? It's like when there's little discussion, there's little dialogue, and it's just momentum and movement and drama told without words. Something about that, whenever it's hitting just right, is great. The problem is when it's not doing all those things, I find action can be really tedious. Like I get bored 20 minutes into a John Wick movie.
Sure.
But with
Me
Fury
too.
Road or The Raid or something else where they're genuinely being creative and inventive and trying to do stuff that's inspired, I tend to love it. You know, I appreciate the craft. And so that's where I'm at on Fury Road. I hate to like pick such a easy thing, but I think it's just as good as everyone says it is. It's one of the rare cases where I think the hype is real. I think Fury Road is incredible. It's just an achievement in movie making.
Sure.
And I think you've acknowledged that, even though you say these movies aren't necessarily for you. I think even you can see that movies just aren't made like that. You know?
Yeah.
Fury
It's-
Roads
it's-
just don't happen.
Yeah, it's certainly a breath of fresh air. Thinking of like, you know, I mean, what were the big action movies of the time would have been
Marvel?
stuff like Marvel and even Transformers were still cranking out movies around the time this came out.
Yeah. So it's just like this little oasis of pure cinema, you know, with like vision and like an auteur action director at its peak, you know? And so that brings us to Furiosa. I was wondering what this movie was going to be. If you asked me before, I'd say that I wasn't exactly hoping for a prequel. I had kind of wanted to see what would come next after Fury Road, but, you know, whatever. If Miller wants to make this, I'm going to watch it, you know? As for the movie itself, I think it turns out it's a good old-fashioned revenge odyssey. Like I said earlier, or an epic, if you will. And I had a good time with it. It's a prequel that I think enhances the experience of Fury Road. And that is always good when a prequel does that. I think I've been on record on this podcast saying that many times. It Better Call Saul's it, you know? I think it adds new meaning and context to certain characters. So like when I watch Fury Road next time and certain characters meet their demise that were in this movie in Furiosa, I'm going to be like, yeah, all right. I had no connection to you before. You were just some guy in a weird outfit. But now I know, you know, you're a gross pedophile or whatever, you know, like I'm glad you're dead.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
anyways, I don't think it's as strong a movie as Fury Road, but how could it be? Nothing was ever going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for example, I think there's some green screen and some compositing that doesn't look as good as Fury Road. I think sometimes you can tell they're not really filming outside.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I don't really like to get hung up on that stuff. It was never going to be as good as Fury Road, and they were never going to make it like they made Fury Road because the making of that movie was infamous. It's a notoriously horrible shoot that went terribly wrong, and it was a nightmare for all involved, apparently. So I don't blame them for not wanting to do that. George Miller is 79 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's where I'm at. I just it's got some stuff I didn't love, but man, it's like it's just cool. It's like it's vision. It's visionary. You know, it's like it doesn't feel like anything else except for maybe parts of Fury Road and elements of other Mad Max movies. So I appreciate the vision, the building of the mythology. This is, I think, the only Mad Max movie that ties directly into another entry in the franchise. Usually, I think with Mad Max Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome, they kind of all loosely fit together, and the continuity was never an issue. George Miller kind of always wanted to tell these stories as myths, like campfire stories, where the details don't always match up. It's just a new adventure of Max in the wasteland. This is the first one of these movies that I think directly ties in with like continuity and is meant to feel like part of the same cohesive story being told. And I think in doing that, it achieves its goal really well.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you to places that are only mentioned in Fury Road, which I found to be exciting. I guess I'll end it there. But all else to say, I think it's very good. Very good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that no matter what, when I watch Fury Road again, I will have more backstory in which to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's one of the things that keeps me at a distance from Fury Road 2, I think, is just like you
Too
just
simple?
get this small section. Yeah, I think so. And it's
Too
like,
slight.
Yeah. I think too slight, too, or too. I guess like things that like I don't necessarily understand, or it's not in the sense that I'm confused, but like things like that I just don't gel with me. I think will gel a little bit better. Come Fury Road, just 'cause I've spent more time in the world, even will help too.
You're like, now I understand the motivations of Rictus Erectus.
Yeah, I understand why that guy has no nipple covers on his shirt, or like holes cut out around his nipples.
Yeah, I like how the dudes that hang out with Immortan Joe are like a guy with like bullet teeth and like this fat old like sexed up guy with like nipple chains,
just constantly playing with his nipples.
Yeah, it's just like, God, gross. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I find that a massive distraction. Every scene he's in, I'm just like, there he is.
Like this fat old pervert with tumors all over his legs. Like, I don't know.
Just playing with his nipples, right?
Yeah.
Right next to the character delivering maybe important dialogue. I don't know.
Yeah, and like
What did
they
he
have like
say?
these crazy like names for all these characters, Rictus Erectus and Scrotus and
Scrotus. Good lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes me. We have talked about this before. You mentioned it earlier. You said a lot. One of the things that keeps you at a distance from these movies is when you were talking about Fury Road to me the other day. Is you don't think Viking warrior, like crazy cultists, are cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you. With this movie, I feel like it really hammered the point home that these people are far from cool.
Yeah. I think I said cool, but like I'm just not certain if that's the right word. You know?
Okay.
Like
So
I mean,
you don't,
they're definitely not.
So when you say
cool.
that, you're not saying that the George Miller wants you to think that Immortan Joe is and his war boys are like awesome, and you're pumped for them.
Yeah, or like you should look up to them in any way, or like be on their side.
He's got a lot of good points, you know.
Yeah.
Do not become addicted to water.
Immortal Joe tells it like it is.
Yeah.
You know, can't knock him for that.
He's a straight shooter.
God, no, like I don't know, like just cool in a way that like I don't know, like well, that's a bad example. I want to say like Darth Vader is cool, like, but he is cool.
Yeah.
But and people do like think he's awesome and rad.
Think of it as cool in the way that like Arnold Schwarzenegger delivering a one-liner after he kills somebody is cool.
Yeah,
It's just
I try to, but I
bygone 80s sensibility.
Yeah, I think the issue is that like just like I don't find joy in the grotesque like testosterone fueled world that are these movies. You know what I mean? Like I don't like you could have it's more gross than it is like entertaining.
I mean, I guess I don't find these movies particularly gross.
I do.
Yeah, all right.
But
They're not even particularly that gory.
No, not really. I think that's just I think I'm just trying to like figure out a better way to phrase it than cool, right? That's just like
No, I get you. I know what you're saying.
it's like not a character design I can be like, wow, that's just like it's gross and I don't like it, but like how neat. Like I don't have that about these movies.
Sure.
In a way that makes me like love them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like
but
Immortal Joe is like just
Immortan Joe.
Immortan? I thought it was immortal.
No, it's a weird
see.
word. Yeah, I don't know. Immortan Joe.
Yeah. Okay. Like Immortan Joe is like, I just see him like I feel like when, you know, I used to watch like a lot of like WWF and WWE wrestling.
Yeah.
And like, if I liked that, I could see being really into like this still, right? Like if I still liked that. And
yeah. I mean, I've never been into that.
looking back in hindsight and looking at like the things I've seen from WWE since, like there's like a lameness to it that like that I feel now that like it's not cool to me anymore. And like I kind of have the same feeling of like this like jacked testosterone over the topness.
Right.
Towards
like this
both.
mad world that everyone's gone mad and like it's like the most eccentric peacocking lunatics that are like running the show now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though they're bad guys, it still keeps me at a distance. But we
Yeah,
don't have to
fair
get
enough.
bogged
I
down
mean,
too much in that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that Furiosa kind of shows you, like, we're jumping around a bit, but I think it's cool to show you that, like, the people that aren't participating in this, like, weird lunacy are either, like, living in the ground or they are, like, having to survive by being part of this world while being separate from it. Like, there's a section of the movie where Furiosa she meets a guy named Praetorian Jack, who is a road warrior, essentially, who drives the war rig from the Citadel to Gastown or the Citadel to Bullet Town or Bullet Farm and back and forth and delivers stuff. I like how whenever like you meet like a regular person who's not buying into all this like lunacy, these idiots that are running things, but he still has to live. And so you see like this is what just people who are trying to get by are doing. Meanwhile, like these lunatics are getting together biker gangs. They're like breeding like in mass so they can create an army of like half-lives, like which are just people who are like don't have a full human lifespan. Yeah. Because everyone's living in this radioactive hell. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that like the world building that this movie does, I think, to expand upon the lore that's already there in Fury Road, I think is really cool and feels natural, and it doesn't feel like a checklist of prequel things of like, this is how Furiosa shaved her head and this is how Furiosa loses an arm. She does do those things, and the movie does show you those, but like, I don't think it feels like a checklist necessarily. It feels like it expands the world in a natural way and incorporates the things that you know are coming in, I think, a dramatic and impactful way to her character.
Yeah. Like I was surprised genuinely by some of those things, right? Like, you know, even though like I know at some point we're going to see them, like they did a good job of like, that's that. Okay. Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah. There's like a Chekhov's gun on the, like, this is not a spoiler because everyone who's seen Mad Max knows she has no arm. So you know at some point she's going to lose an arm.
Yeah.
And then when it finally happens, you're like, oh, that is not what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah. Surprising.
We can get more into that later, but it was surprising. I think it would be a mistake to go too far into this review and not talk about Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
In this movie. I found Chris Hemsworth to be the MVP of this movie, in my opinion. I think this is my favorite Chris Hemsworth that I've seen him do. I think he's having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
he's He's doing a crazy, obnoxious, like he is Australian, but he's doing like an even thicker, weirder Australian accent from a bygone era. He said he emulated his grandpa because like back in then he's like they used to talk all nasally like that, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously that accent was horrible, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that wasn't Australian, but I take your point.
Yeah. But you know what Chris Hemsworth was doing in the movie.
I do.
And you know what he normally sounds like. So, yeah, I don't know. What'd you think of Chris Hemsworth?
So yeah, there were times where I liked him. I thought he was interesting. That I did feel points where it felt like his performance was from another movie. You know?
What do you mean?
Well,
like another performance
he
he gave in another movie, or like he's in a different movie than everyone else?
Like he's in a different movie than everyone else. I felt at times like I think some of it felt played like he knew it was goofy and funny, as opposed to it being goofy and funny, but him playing it seriously. I felt that a time or two, and it kind of took me out of it. But there was lots of other times where I was really enjoying it. So I don't want to sound like I'm knocking it or saying he was not good in it.
I feel like this movie as a whole was pretty goofy and had a lot of comedy in it though. So I don't know. I think
it does. I mean, and yeah, to that point, like, I don't know if I can say that with any like leg to stand on, because there's a character named Scrotus and a character named Rectus in the movie. And maybe he feels like he was in a movie with characters with those names. And
I mean, he is,
you know,
he's got a weird fake nose on and a big beard, and he rides a chariot of motorcycles.
Yeah. Instead of horses, and he like has his little
he has
ropes
a weird
to, like, pull.
cape that changes. Like, okay,
yeah,
there's a point
it is
early
very
in this
silly.
movie. Yeah, there's a point early in this movie where a flare goes off, like a red flare, and it gets all over him. And like, instead of cleaning himself up, he just starts calling himself Dementus the Red or something like that, and just sort of adopts it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is a fair point. Like, I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense, but like, I just remember feeling it. It's
a very heightened reality, these movies.
Yeah. And I mean, he's playing that up to a T. I overall, I enjoyed him. I thought he was really fun. I actually didn't recognize him for about 30 minutes.
Really?
I was like, okay, you know, because we start with like very young Furiosa, like played by a young girl before we move to
who is
Anya
great.
Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, she's in like 2 out of the 5 chapters, and I think she's awesome.
Yeah, she's really great. I
don't think she talks more than Anya Taylor-Joy does.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and she's trying to hide her identity for a while as well, right? So she can't talk too much. But so, you know, when Chris Hemsworth shows up in that and his character shows up, I didn't recognize him. I didn't really know it was him.
Yeah.
And so I thought Chris Hemsworth was going to come into the movie when Anya Taylor-Joy did, when Furiosa was a bit older, and at some point she was going to interact with him. So it's like a good like 30 minutes before I was like, oh, that's him. Because like that prosthetic nose just throws off his look entirely.
It's an ugly nose.
Used to him. Yeah. So kudos to them, because like for a long time I didn't even like the Chris Hemsworth of him was not apparent to me. And even later on, it still doesn't feel like him. You know, I don't feel like I'm watching Chris Hemsworth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think for one, he gets to be Australian in this, and it's always good whenever you have someone who's usually doing American accents to be able to speak their native accent. I find that always frees up people, and you see a new side of their performances that I think don't always come through. So I think maybe that helps. I don't know, but it's cool to see him be Australian. Do you know his wife actually has 2 roles in this movie?
I didn't know she had one.
Characters. So remember there's a scene at the beginning where you see Furiosa at the green place, and Furiosa's mother, who is awesome in this movie. The actress that plays her mother, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, she's great.
But anyway, the lady that hands Furiosa's mother a sniper rifle to like go after young Furiosa and try to get her back.
Right. Yeah.
That's Chris Hemsworth's wife. And then there's another character, a woman that's like one of Dementis's right-hand goons, and she has a scarred up face throughout the movie. That's also her.
So they got to work together on set. That's cute.
Yeah, fun. Family affair.
Yeah. Cool. Well, do you have anything else before we get into spoilers?
No. Slower, longer than Fury Road, definitely slower paced, but I agree with you that if you liked Fury Road, you will probably like Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Yeah, I see nothing other than nitpicky reasons to enjoy one and not the other. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Very enthusiastic, and then it sounds like you're moderately enthusiastic. Right? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I'd say so. With a very, like, that's very weighted by my personal taste, right? Not so much my
you
opinion
don't like
of the
fun.
movie.
It's on record.
Yes, exactly. Like, I just I want drama, boring stuff, and silly jokes, and that's it.
Yep. All right. I'm glad we're in agreement. Okay. All right. Spoiler starting now.
No, I guess Rosebud is just a piece in a jigsaw puzzle.
Any orange cigarettes you got up there? I'll tell you all about it.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
And here we go.
Did you catch the homage to Yojimbo with the dog?
Yes. Yeah. Was it Bullet Farm, right?
Yeah.
Where
With
they
the
come
dog
in
with
and-
like the foot in its mouth?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
I believe in Yojimbo it's a hand, but yeah, same
It absolutely is a hand, and
vibes.
yep. And then I'm aware of that because I did like a report in a spaghetti western film studies class I took, and I compared Yojimbo to Fistful of Dollars and pointed out all the similarities. So like that dog from Yojimbo and also the dog in Fistful of Dollars are like burned into my brain. So
Does the dog in A Fistful of Dollars also have a hand?
I believe it does. Yeah, I believe it has a hand as well.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Haven't
So-
seen Fistful of Dollars in a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, I if not that it happens often, but when there's a dog carrying a body part, I immediately think of Yojimbo.
Yeah, makes sense.
So
Speaking
yes, I
of the
caught
Bullet
that.
Farm, that whole sequence I think was pretty cool.
Yes.
The action scenes, I mean, I think the action scenes when they're on screen deliver, but the movie does make you work for them, or at least wait for them, you know? Mm-hmm. But then I think whenever they hit, I think they're just as potent as anything in Fury Road.
Yeah. I think they definitely feel more like, punctuation marks in this, right? Like, or these moments you build to, and then you're like, yes, awesome. This is great. And so I do enjoy the range of mood in this one.
Yeah, this one feels more ambitious for sure. It feels a lot like I felt this with George Miller's last movie as well. Was it 10,000 or 3,000 Years of Longing?
3,000.
3,000 Years of Longing. A movie that I was really enjoying until I don't think it all came together in the end the way I wanted it to, but I would like to see it again. But that's beside the point. If you've seen that movie, and I know you have, Justin,
Yes.
I think what is very obvious is that George Miller is really interested in the power of stories, why we tell stories, the myths behind them, how to build mythology, and how to invoke that feeling you want whenever you're telling a story. He doesn't want to phone it in. He wants everything to feel right, and he wants to really paint the storybook approach to things. I mean, would you say that feels accurate?
Yeah, I think so. And especially with the point you were making before about he thought of these stories as myths told around the campfire, and that's why like continuity didn't always matter.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, well, the reason it does now, though, fun fact, Fury Road was actually written a long time ago. It was filmed, or it was written, I think, like in the early 2000s, and when Mel Gibson was still going to be attached to it as an older Max. And then by the time they got to film it, he had to recast. It was Tom Hardy. He got Charlize Theron on board, and he actually started writing backstory for everything. He wrote Furiosa the same time as Fury Road, and he also wrote a Mad Max movie called The Wasteland, and that was going to be about Max's life 1 year leading up to Fury Road. So he wrote 2 prequels along with Fury Road, and he intended to make this one right after Fury Road, but then a lot of stuff happened and it didn't work out. I think he sued Warner Brothers for unpaid wages or something, or unpaid money, and then a pandemic, and then all kinds of stuff, So This has been in the works for a while. Charlize Theron was involved initially, and then he had to recast for someone younger because he didn't want to have to de-age Charlize Theron, even though she still looks awesome. But she doesn't look like early 20s anymore,
Sure, yeah.
So anyways, this stuff's all been kind of cooking for a while, and I think that's kind of interesting that, like, I think that's why these movies, you can feel the passion in them, is because he's been itching to complete this story for a while. And I think that's why, if he ever gets to make the third Mad Max movie, which the box office suggests he won't, but hopefully he does.
Right.
I think it would make sort of like a trilogy of sorts. And the only Mad Max movies that would work well together is with continuity. But yeah, the man just loves to tell stories. He said he was writing Fury Road, and then he was like, well, we got to know more. How did Furiosa lose her arm? What is the relationship between Furiosa and Immortan Joe? Where did the Doof Warrior come from? Which is like the blind man who plays guitar.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so he's got a backstory.
Did we see where he
everything.
came from? Didn't he just... Well, I guess that maybe
no, we
that
didn't see
wasn't
where he
part of
came
the
from in
story.
Furiosa. He's just around in that one bit. But the point is, George Miller knows where that guy came from. So like the dude just he wants to tell stories, and each character, it seems like they have a story worth telling. It's not just like a phone it in origin. It seems like everyone could have their own, revenge epic or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think what's so infectious about these movies is the love of the craft and the love of the world by a man who just wants to tell the story, and I think that's kind of infectious. I think people can feel that in the movie.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can feel that, and I think, he certainly knows how to shoot action too, and stage and frame, because I think that's what this movie does best to me is, as you said, feel the passion in the story and for the characters, but also just the action scenes have such a visceral feeling to them. On a level that I struggle to think of an equivalent in terms of that feeling.
Like really feels like Mad Max movies at their peak, like Road Warrior, Fury Road, and this, like whenever they're in the moments of the movies, whenever like action is happening.
Yeah.
Nothing else quite feels like. There were imitations for a while of like Mad Max in like the 90s and 80s. Like Waterworld for a while became like a Mad Max movie on water,
Right. But I remember nothing. I have no like memory of a visceral feeling from Waterworld, to be honest, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
Oh man, I used to watch that movie a lot when I was a kid. It's probably really bad.
I think I've only ever seen it like once or twice with you. But I mean, just trying to think of like other top-notch action from like the past several decades,
and when it happens, it's usually foreign, or it's usually like indie, and they're doing a lot with a little.
Yeah, but even like Mission Impossible, has like incredible action sequences in them, but they aren't like this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why these movies, like that's part of the appeal, right? Is like nothing else feels like this.
Yeah. So yeah, there's something cool about that. Like if he made the third movie, despite like, my personal feelings towards Fury Road or Furiosa, like I would go watch the third one, ideally in theaters. Like, and I am ultimately sad that I never saw Fury Road in theaters.
Yeah, that probably would have helped. It's like to see it with like an audience that was like exhilarated. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what we need to tackle here. I think there's a lot in this movie. It's like you said, it spans many years. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's I don't know how much value there is in going like set piece by set piece and being like, that was cool and that was neat and stuff, because there's a lot of it is. I will say there was a feeling in the theater when I don't remember which section of the movie this is exactly, but they're being chased and like these guys jump off of these like buggies that are chasing the war rig, I believe.
Oh, and they start sliding on like skates or something, like these like skate things.
No. This was like giant like wind sail parachutes opened up.
Yeah.
Like behind them, and then they were like floating down, like and like kind of parasailing almost.
Yeah.
Alongside, like I felt it, and there was just this feeling in the theater. You could kind of hear and feel like the audience being like, "Ooh."
Yeah, well, I think that we're talking about the same part. So, like, there's in the beginning of that part, it's like when the war rig comes out for the first time, I think, after they build it, and they're going, and Furiosa's on the bottom of it, and then Praetorian Jack is driving. And I think that's the part anyway. But, like, these motorcycles come up, and it's one of Dementis, like, one of the gangs that were following Dementis breaking off and doing their own thing. And, yeah, like these dudes, like there's one guy driving the motorcycle and another guy hops off the back of the motorcycle and he's got these big metal things like skis kind of on his boots.
Yeah.
And then like he starts skiing on the sand and then lets the parachute go and then flies up in the air.
Okay, yeah.
While still being roped to the back of the motorcycle. So he's like parasailing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy, the leader of that gang with the goofy horns and the mask. I don't remember what he was called. Octo Warrior or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Something goofy. Octo Man or...
The names of characters mostly were things I was not concerned about. Like, I didn't even know Praetorian Jack had a name until we've been talking.
Yeah, anyway, they all got goofy, stupid wasteland names. And, yeah, like that part where, like, the little war boy, you know, who was like, can I turn on the thing now? He just, like, wanted to push the button, and then he ends up getting killed, and Furiosa pushes the button, and it like sucks that dude up into like the, what do you call those things that hang?
The things that are on the back that like kind of spin, like
the little spinner thing. Yeah, the gobby knocker or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah. Oh, they're basically like maces, like
yeah, it's like swinging
mace.
Chains around. Anyway, and it sucks up that thing, and his like little kite or whatever gets caught up in it, and it's like this like squid following behind the war rig.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That
looks really cool.
Yeah. That was really fun. I guess I don't know if you want to move to the ending or if you've got like more specifics.
No, I don't think so. Other than to say, the little girl at the beginning who stays behind when little Furiosa gets kidnapped. That's the woman in Fury Road who's the bait in the tower. Remember when Max is like, "That's bait."
Oh, right.
The naked woman hanging up there? Yeah,
yes.
That's her.
Okay.
That's whenever they hug and he's like, "Furiosa, you've returned," or whatever, and they have that big moment.
Yeah.
That's her. Yeah, anyway. Just good stuff. I really hope that actress who plays her mom is in more stuff. She was really awesome.
Yeah. She was super cool.
Yeah. I will say, I think you can tell that there is a new Immortan Joe. Not quite as an imposing of a presence in this one as he is in Fury Road, in my opinion. But that actor passed away, so obviously a recast was necessary.
Yeah, I feel... Yeah. I was not a big fan of that character in general. It's probably like my least favorite character in the movie. He's really one where like the whole design and testosterone grotesqueness really just
of
rubs
Immortan
me
Joe
the wrong way. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's supposed to be pretty off-putting. He's got like a plastic muscles on and like weird long hair and like a breathing thing on the back of his head.
Yeah. He reminds me of is it Edgar Winter? Do you know who that is?
No.
Guitarist. Well, someone out there might, but I kind of just think of Edgar Winter when I'm looking at him.
He strikes me as designed to be the most repulsive possible person to be a wife to.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm almost too repulsed.
I mean,
then.
I don't see
Like-
how you couldn't be. I think that's very
the
much
problem.
intentional, right? Because like the whole Fury Road is like his wives, quote unquote, like running away because they don't want to be subjected to this man.
Yeah. I was just looking up the woman who plays, who you said you wanted more of. Here, Charlie Fraser is her name.
Okay, Furiosa's mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I recognized her and I was looking up. She's in that Anyone But You movie
Okay, I have not seen that
with
yet.
Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell.
Yep.
Well, let me know when you do and we talk about it because I have thoughts.
I know you do. I know you do.
I haven't clamored to review it for a reason. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I haven't clamored to see it for a reason, but I thought that might just be marketing. But who knows? I'll decide for myself, I guess.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. If you see it and you have strong thoughts, we'll news on the march it at best.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do a whole review because it would just be too negative, and I don't like doing that. You know.
I do. Yes, I also have. I don't like to go on at length about things I do not like anymore. I feel like that's a young man's game. A younger me loved to do that.
Yeah. I don't have the energy for that anymore these days.
Yeah. Now I just want people to enjoy things.
Yeah. Which
I don't want to contribute to anyone not liking anything.
Yeah. And if that sounds contradictory, like to my opinions on Fury Road, then so be it, I guess. But like, I really hope that I don't come across as like too negative or thinking.
No,
that
I mean
it's a bad
it's
movie
like
or anything at
it's
all.
like me watching a sports movie. It's like I can appreciate when they're good, but they're not my bag.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I'll watch Mighty Ducks 1 through 3 right now.
Yeah,
You know,
I
like you
won't.
don't have to.
I would not do that.
You don't have to twist my arm because I just.
Yeah, you
I
wouldn't
love
have to
'em.
twist my arm, but I would ask to watch something else.
Immediately or two
I would
in
watch
or
the
one
first
in?
Mighty Ducks. I have some interest in Mighty Ducks 2 and zero interest in Mighty Ducks 3.
Yeah, 2 is my favorite. Just it's the one I watch the most.
Yeah.
But okay, good to know. I could get you to at least watch one Mighty Ducks movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep that in
thank
my
you.
back pocket for one day.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. Hope that information is valuable to you.
We'll see. But okay, anything else on Furiosa?
I don't think so. I mean, there's so much we didn't talk about, but like you said,
Yeah.
it would kind of just be on my end going through and praising it. I'm trying to think of things I didn't like. Other than like maybe just not being sold that they are actually like outdoors with the sun shining on them for a few shots.
Yeah,
And some green screen compositing issues.
it's a little weaker technically, but rewatching Fury Road, I remember being
there's a
surprised
lot
by
of that
some
in
stuff
Fury
that was clearly green screen.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Fury Road gets this reputation of being like all physically, practically done effects. And no, that movie is very heavy on the CGI. And it works. You can still tell they're outside in the desert, though, and the whole movie almost. And this one, I think you do get a little bit of that soft lighting or like not quite dynamic sunlight hitting faces. But that's pretty minor. I still think it's told with enough craft and this storybook quality that like the artificiality of it kind of works whenever it's on screen.
It's kind of the nature of it being a prequel helps that too. You almost feel like it's a story, right?
Right. And you get this narrator, the history man with all the tattoos on his body, kind of telling the story. And he's kind of an unreliable narrator. Like, we could talk about this, the ending with Dementis, whenever we don't even really know what happens to him.
I like the idea, the potential idea that we're presented with at the end of the movie of the tree planted in him. From a revenge story standpoint, that's a really satisfying ending.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
I assume she just stuck a seed up his butt and then just let it grow.
Yeah, sure. Or like planted it in his intestines or something.
Yeah.
But I did not think about the
logistics,
anal entry or logistics. Yeah. Well, maybe I thought about the logistics, but I assume she just like made a hole and like cut him up and
I think
stuck
sticking
it in
it
him.
in his butt would probably be
Yeah, it'd be the easiest, but would it hurt the most? I don't know.
I don't know. And would it stay?
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine hurting the most would have been one of the more primary goals.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with a revenge story like this, like you kind of want the most screwed up sort of like brutal thing to happen.
Right.
And I think they did a good job of presenting that, because when it happened, I was like, oh,
yeah,
man, that's he deserves it, but goodness.
Right, exactly. So like, what does this like newly found information tell us about the arc of Furiosa so far? So, she's abducted from her homeland. She goes through this odyssey of revenge. She finally gets that revenge by becoming just like everyone else, these people that she hates, right? Dementis, Immortan Joe, the violence and everything caused by that. So, I guess, so now her goal is to seek redemption. You remember in Fury Road, whenever Max says, like, we could turn around, it's going to be a hard day, but maybe together we can achieve some kind of redemption.
Mm-hmm.
I guess now we know what Furiosa is going to be thinking about during that, right? Like, what does redemption mean for her? She's done a lot of heinous shit and it didn't really bring anything back. Like, she gets her moment where she's like, I want them back. And it's like, yeah, but you can't. It's sure. Revenge won't give them back. So what now? You have to become something else. You can't just be this vengeful warrior after you get revenge. Otherwise, you become a monster. Like Dementis, right? You feel like Dementis lost his family at some point, if you believe him, with the teddy bear thing. Yeah. And he chose to become this. Max lost his family, and he chose to become this weird hermit that drifts around. So anyway, sure. I think it's interesting how a lot of these characters have the same origin of losing family in some horrific way, and then what does this world make them become? Like, how do they respond to the madness of the Mad Max world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I like about this one a lot, is that I do feel that.
Yeah.
And enjoy that journey.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I like that this butts right up. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just going to say, I want to watch Fury Road. I haven't watched it again after this, but what were you going to say?
Well, I like that this literally butts right up against the beginning of Fury Road.
Yeah.
Other than the tree thing, which I can't remember if that's like the final image we see.
No, I don't think it's the final image.
Visit, or is it like her getting in the war machine?
I think it's
war
like
machine?
I don't remember what the last image is, but I remember one of the last things is like her sneaking the wives out and getting ready to stow away.
Loading them up into the war rig.
Yeah.
Which is that's where we pick up in Fury Road. So like
they Rogue One'd it. Yeah.
Yes. That's good. Good way to put it. I'm sure something else has done it too, but Rogue One'd it.
Yeah. It's always cool whenever a prequel can successfully stand on its own and also offer something more. It's like Pearl and X, or, any kind of, I always just like when things, Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, I just like that kind of thing. So I was probably always going to like this movie as long as it handled that aspect well.
Right. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. All right. Did we do it?
Yes, I think we did, and no other business for this episode, right? That's it?
No, I think our next episode will be the poll winner, which is The Player. The people have spoken.
Yes.
Justin wins again.
Oh, this has to be like the 4th or 5th time that I've put it in a poll, hoping that it wins, because I've been wanting to rewatch this movie since literally it ended. And granted, nothing is stopping me from doing that, but it's nice to have a reason to actually do it. Because I think it's a cool movie. But anyways, we'll cross that bridge. Maybe I won't.
Continued. Yeah.
Maybe I won't think it's a cool movie on second viewing. We'll find out.
Yeah. Maybe I'll think it's a cool movie and you'll hate it.
Yeah.
Just like this movie we just reviewed.
No. Yes. Just like that, except that I didn't hate it. And
yeah, you just spent the whole time talking shit on it, and I had to do what I could do.
Yeah.
save this.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Being Furiosa's savior.
Anyway,
okay.
I am excited to watch The Player. You've told me to watch this for many years, and now I will.
Yes. But okay, thank you, listeners, so much for listening. As always, thanks Jake Wagner-Russell for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, go to soundcloud.com/bopscotch. And until next time, see you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.